Welcome to Season 3 of the Knack for Business podcast. Over 350 episodes strong, we're here to ignite your entrepreneurial spirit with fresh insights, networking gems, and creative strategies that elevate your game.
How do you stop feeling like success is draining you and start leading with purpose without losing everything you've built? Our guest today is Sheila Williams. Sheila is a Canadian mindset coach who helps high-functioning midlife men reignite their spark without burning down the life they've built. With a background in high school education and corporate IT training, Sheila understands both the drive to succeed and the quiet burnout that often follows. Through her private coaching programs, mindset workshops, and thriving membership community, she guides men from a state of pressure and performance into one of fulfillment and freedom. Living nomadically and pet-sitting her way around the world, Sheila brings a grounded, real-world approach to personal transformation, often from wherever the Wi-Fi is strong and the pets are well-behaved. Sheila, welcome. And hey, do you have a favorite quote or saying you'd like to share with us?
Hi there, Bernie, and thanks for having me. And hi to Wayne, too. I would love to share one of the quotes that really speaks deeply to me. It's attributed to the Buddha. It's what you think, you become, what you feel, you attract, what you imagine, you create. And that's basically how I live my life and how I run my coaching business.
And you also have a tagline, especially since you're dealing with midlife dudes.
I love my men. I have noticed that one of their instincts is to burn it all down and start over. So I invite them to reclaim their spark without burning down their life.
Yeah, because usually if they're burning their life, they're taking everything else with it and other people. When someone on the subject of Burning Man, why do guys react so strongly as opposed to, hang on, what do I got? And let's work on it. It might be a different result in the end. How do you get them to that creative side of the solution?
I have a different answers for that. One is a bit more what you would expect, whereas we're using the words reactive and creative. Reactive means that knee-jerk reaction and acting without thinking, as opposed to creative, allowing more thought, outside the box, innovation, which our men are really good at. I wanted to look at it even from another angle and understand that the word creation is one of the more important words, as opposed to even creative. And to create, to use it as a verb, to be that active participant in your life so that you're not simply reacting to what's around you as a very passive actor in your play, if you want to put it that way, but you're actually creating and you're doing it deliberately. You're doing it consciously because you've taken the time to actually think, what do you want? What do I want is one of the most important questions that we can ask. A way of setting the foundation for creating a life that feels good for you. Because if you're always creating from that place of reacting to what you think other people want you to do or what you should do, that becomes a really shaky ground. And that's what crumbles. And that's where our guys often have that moment of, oh my God, like, how did I get here? And what am I supposed to do? Because this doesn't feel good. And I feel completely trapped now.
So men love to talk about getting what they want. And what they often don't know is really what they do want. Tell me how they get what they want, really.
What I advocate is it's all well and good to think, I want that car and I want that trip and I want that particular golf driver. But where I go is, how do you want to feel? That's going to be the element. And when you start there, all of those other details, they will fall into place. You'll get them. But when you actually focus on this base aspect of, I want to feel freedom. I want to know that I have choice. I want to feel loved. I want to feel appreciated. I want to feel at peace, calm. So many of my men reach for calm within our sessions. And it shows them that they're not finding it in day-to-day life. They don't even know that they were missing it. And that's a great learning curve. Having the opportunity to understand, to pause and reflect on what would feel good and to feel that it's nothing reaching outside of you. It is that peace, calm, feeling safe, secure, cozy. Like those really great memories from childhood. It doesn't really matter where you got it from, you want it.
It's interesting because coaching itself, you think of high school, you think of athletes, and then we see that in the executive space too, right? And you're not looking to hurl a javelin down the boardroom table. There's a traditional process of approaching this for most coaches. What's the differentiator for the mindset coaching? How does that differentiate? Is it like you're not applying this, how you go for your coaching to your financial process, to the culture, but mindset's a different thing.
I really think it has to be understood that it's different because there are business coaches, they'll help you find out what are those numbers you want and how to get there. But if the mindset isn't a fit, if you're not ready for it in some way, you're never going to get there. It'll be very elusive. And many people have experienced this where they think, I've tried all the things and I've hired all the people or I don't have the right people working for me. How come they're not doing it right? It will always feel as if there's an outside source that's not measuring up. And then you start to turn it on yourself. I'm not measuring up. And that can create a really crazy spiral. And none of it is necessary because when you understand the mindset work, when you go back to almost the basics and exactly what we were talking about before of understanding, how do I want to feel? What is my end goal? It's not the number, but how am I going to feel when I hit that number? When I allow myself to think beyond that number, what will that feel like for me? That really does change everything. Every good athletic coach knows that. And that's why they're having their athletes visualize crossing that finish line, holding the trophy. It's getting them in that moment of having it. I propose even going beyond that because there is always going to be beyond. You can plan something and hit that goal, but of course, there's going to be something else you want after. Not to have it be this constant striving and never feeling, but allow yourself to tap into the having of it right now within your emotions. I know that can be a kind of a scary word for some people, but to allow yourself to know what is it going to feel and to know that it just smooths it out. It's not just this end goal, stop, now what? It's okay, I'm now on this place and that's exactly where I need to be now to go to this new, better place. For a lot of, especially business owners, entrepreneurs, it is that hunt. It is the challenge. They do want to keep going beyond, but it's not just this endless striving. It's a building up.
One thing that interests me is a lot of are in a growth stage and it's exciting. They take pride in being 24/7. It's raw go. And there's even a dopamine hit. How do you get to avoid burnout when those signals are sending you the wrong information?
My lovely solopreneurs, they want to do it all because they think they can do it all and that they're the best person to do it all. The best thing they really can do is pause and understand that do they want the marathon or do they want the sprint? Because if they want to have success that can be sustainable, they are going to have to learn the tools to have balance. And that might just be some breath time. I always recommend 3 deep breaths as the first tool. It doesn't mean you have to learn to meditate if you're not familiar with it. Very important to give yourself those 3 deep breaths minimum. It is amazing the shifts that can happen in our body because it allows our heart rate to slow down. It provides oxygen and everything else that our body needs to move. It signals to our brain we are safe, we can think clearly, we are not in fight or flight. And physiologically, it's going to impact blood pressure, how we're sleeping, everything that we want to have balance. If you're driven, that's exciting. You're passionate about it. That's amazing. You can go for it, but give yourself the opportunity to enjoy it along the way and to find that success you think you're looking for, because then you do get to play with what comes beyond that.
I'm sitting here as we're talking about this, right, and doing the breathing exercise. I get it. If you're in a calm state, you can rationalize things out. You're not in an emotive state, wound up. You make better decisions, not only the immediate, it's long term. But since we're talking about midlife guys, apparently there's a shift in our body that rolls around. It happened when we were teens, typically. It could be anywhere along the spectrum. How do you help a person? Because they're outside forces, like you can realize, hey, listen, I'm tired of doing the same old, or something's not working, or I'm seeing results either with the family or the business. How do you, from the mindset perspective, start sifting out, okay, you didn't get enough sleep. So you're hangry, right? Not enough food, not enough sleep. These are culminators that make you a little more irritated. How do you discern or how do you weed through some of the internal pressures and you get that person to focus on, okay, your midlife, your hormones have just shifted, chill. The red Corvette doesn't have to happen. It can, but doesn't have to. You don't have to burn the place down. How do you help them sort through that piece?
I think taking that time to reflect on what are they choosing to do for themselves. Very often when I'm meeting with men, they are always looking outward. They're looking to support their family, whether that's financially, emotionally, their time, or a business, or maybe it's even elderly parents. It feels as if there's always something pulling at them and it's not leaving anything for themselves. I absolutely recommend starting with that point of what do I feel I need and start carving it out. And again, we're not talking about not fulfilling your responsibilities to the people who are relying on you, but it's adding yourself to that list. Everyone who's ever flown in an airplane has heard, put on your own oxygen mask before you help anyone else. And often with my guys, I will ask them to start carving out some time. And if that means waking up 5 minutes earlier so they have 5 minutes themselves, it's a start. And if you can fit in a half-hour walk or workout, that's great too, because it's going to start building on itself. More than anything, the physical benefits will be there, but it's the mindset shift that's going to make the change, because they're understanding that they are allowed to choose something that feels better for them while still meeting other people's needs. So that'll be step one. There are other steps. Step one is, how am I prioritizing myself? Am I sleeping? Am I eating? Am I taking a walk? One of the micro habits that I suggest in a 10 micro habits change that I recommend everybody download, because they're small and they're easy, but take a 10-minute walk without your phone. When's the last time anyone did that? It's the small shifts that can really make a difference. So again, this isn't talking about, okay, I got to go to the gym 5 days a week. This is take it easy, take it small, and start exactly where you are.
One thing that interests me as a coach is how gender specific it seems. And if some women would only want to be teach or coached by a woman, I think some men would pick a man. You realize that you saw a niche, a solution, a pain point that is countercultural. Tell me about that.
Well, a few different factors played into it. I love coaching men and women because they all have different nuances. But what I was finding within my private coaching practice is that I looked forward most to the sessions with the men. I loved knowing that they were taking the ownership of making a change in their life. And I loved the idea of how powerful that can be. And having the coaching come at that point when things are starting to feel, not frustrations moving into almost helpless and hopeless. I don't want that for any family or any man. And I lived it. My first marriage, my ex-husband is still an amazing person, but during the marriage, he could not find that settled space. We had from the outside the most amazing, wonderful life, and yet he didn't feel fulfilled inside. He felt really empty. It was the constant, let's change houses, let's move cities, let's get a new vehicle, let's change jobs again. I'm going to go train for something different. Now I'm going to move over here. Something had to keep shifting in him until he finally just left us as the family unit. And of course, it took years for him to find what he needed. And it was that mindset piece. But it took years. How amazing that there are so many coaches available now to help these guys, that society is allowing it to be okay to say, yeah, I've got a fitness coach, I've got a nutrition coach. Why wouldn't I have a mindset coach? I love that.
There are different sorts of people out there. And whether you're an introvert, extrovert, some people are adrenaline junkies, right? Those are kind of like, if you do the extremes. Who do you find in your past experience needs it the most? Everybody will need mindset shifting, whether you're an introvert or an extrovert. But who, if they don't get a little bit of guidance, which personality can go too far that you found? And that, I guess what I'm trying to identify is who's most likely to, ow, that's really going to hurt you, bud. Don't do that.
Understanding that I'm not a psychologist and I've never studied this, from my own experience, if you're going to say introvert versus extrovert, I would say most likely the extrovert, because they are seeking others to recharge, which is a distraction from self-reflection. An introvert isn't necessarily reflecting, but they are giving themselves more opportunities to be inward and quiet. So much of our society, even though it looks like it is good and it's helpful and it's healthy, it's so often a distraction. And we usually don't realize that until we think things aren't going well. And then we realize, oh, it's because I've been filling my time and my brain with things that aren't contributing to life quality or feeling happy at my core.
One thing that I'm really interested about your practice is coaching as it's been developed. You pull out thoughts and ideas and you say, what about this? And have you thought about that? And mindset accidentally seems to have been something that comes up at least after 9 days or maybe even longer. You actually are much more in your face, where they need to actually look at why their mindset's been crippled really early in your coaching. Tell me more about that.
I might even challenge that question, and you feel free to come right back at me. I'm not sure that I ever actually ask them a why question in a direct way like that. Where I tend to focus is more the questions of possibility. I ask a lot of what if questions. For instance, someone will come to me and he might use up 20 minutes of his hour-long session telling me all the details about being busy with this or having to do that. And I'll ask a question of, what if you didn't have to do that? What if that didn't have to fall on your shoulders? What if you allowed something different? I am encouraging people to move out of this very straight line story that they've created for themselves and just park on the highway a little bit and look at the map and notice what's going on around them. Because when we ask questions, we create space for the answers to drop in. How often are we going along our day doing what we think we should do and trying to make sure everybody else does what they should do? We don't allow for that to be different. The law of assumption plays very strongly within our life. We expect things to be a very specific way, and that's the way it's going to be, whether we like it or not. I want to challenge people to say, if that doesn't feel good, let's allow for some different options. It doesn't mean it won't happen that way, but it means you're giving space for it to happen in a way that feels better.
So the mindset tools that you capitalize on, can you give some options or a description? What are the tools you can bring forward in that space without having to go to that nth degree?
Yeah. So obviously, I will always, because they're my men, I want to stay practical on a certain vein because the guys, they like to know, okay, what am I supposed to do? Like, give me the checklist so I can get it done. And that will absolutely be helpful. For instance, these little micro habits that you can add into your day, they might sound simple, go do them and see that they're effective, because just because they're simple doesn't mean they won't work. So that's more on the day-to-day, training yourself new ways to think, having the new thought patterns. That's really important. Understanding when you're having repetitive thought loops that don't feel good. That matters because right now we're not noticing when they're happening. So they just feel normal. And so that's all part of the work. The most powerful tool that I love to use is a visualization technique where we actually lean into different versions, future versions of my client. So let's say there's something that he's struggling with or he's trying to figure it out. I walk him through this process where he can allow himself to imagine his future self, not that far in the future. Maybe it's a week, a month, whatever the time frame is of this particular problem. And this version has a little bit more information, or he's a little bit further along and he knows that it's going and he's got the information that everyone's been waiting for. And then we might actually create another version just a little bit further ahead where everything is going well and it's at another point. And the last version will be the one at the end point, or maybe even beyond it. In fact, it's already old news because it was so easily wrapped up, it's just no big deal. Even if someone thinks, I don't really do visualization, if I tell you to think of a blue front door of the house, you can do it. It creates a pathway between you and that successful endpoint of what you're looking for. Current you thinks this is hard. There's too many moving pieces. People aren't getting back to me. I don't know how it's going to happen. It's letting you team up with those future versions. And they've got the information. They've got the check marks done. And again, if you've never done it, it might sound a little out there, but the men I've used it with, they are the ones who've said, I can't visualize, don't even try. They love it because we can connect with the emotions about having it feel figured out. And that changes everything. This is you connecting on an emotional level with that version of you. It's just the one that doesn't feel like this is a really big hurdle that has to be overcome.
Is somebody seeking out coaching and they tell you, things are out of control. I just don't know how to get back in control. It's all about control. And what you find out is they're confusing what's in their control and what's out of their control, and they don't have divine powers. Walk me through that, about how they can separate what is internal to their abilities and what is external.
Wayne, what I like to challenge people with is to understand that the only thing within their control is their reactions to what's going on around them. And that can be a really new idea for people because they're used to feeling as if they can control everything. The idea of not being in control of everything and everyone around them can actually feel really scary. What you have within you is the most important piece of having your power, because you don't want to necessarily be in control. You want to be empowered in order to make the right decisions, to react in the ways that feel better for you and that ultimately are going to be best for your life, the people around you. And you're going to be bringing the best of yourself to those situations when you allow that idea that I don't have to control anything. And it's not that you don't have to, it's that you can't. So you can learn to feel more comfortable with it. And when you understand that you can't and that you don't have to keep trying, that all of a sudden allows ease. You feel lighter. You actually feel more free. And everything has a bit more flow and energy as opposed to trying to constrict it and push everything through that control button. It's all happening exactly as you want it to. It's almost like riding on the waves that just is working. And it might not all be perfect, but it is all working. Instead of you having to push all the time, it is just allowing.
Yeah, you can't control everything. Don't try to pull all the strings at the same time. You can't, physically, emotionally, and mentally. It's almost akin to living a nomadic life. Right now, I know where my house is. There it should be. There I go. That's where my mail goes. Government likes to be able to find you, to not find you. You renew your plates, tax return. Everybody wants to, you own a business. There's got to be a brick and mortar place. You can still be nomadic. I get that piece. But being nomadic means that a year from now, 2 years from now, it's in a different part of the country, different part of the world. Does that lifestyle that you're leading help you continuously stay in tune? And is that the perspective that your clients should have? Not, they don't have to move around. Is that something every once in a while you just do a kind of reset going, yeah, you know what? Doesn't matter. It's all good.
There's no question that living nomadically does support me as a coach who empowers her clients. That is very important. But why does it matter? I believe it matters because I'm modeling what I teach. I used to be in corporate. I had 3 kids, a mortgage, all the things that you're supposed to do. I did them all. I had the garage, a minivan. And yet I also felt trapped in many ways and in survival mode. I allowed myself to understand that when the kids are out of the house, I did want to have more choice. I wanted to have more freedom. And I put it out there. When the kids are gone, I can have these things. Then I started to understand, and I didn't have nearly as many tools as I have now, but I at least had some understanding that I could allow myself to start having those feelings right then. So I could have more freedom. I gave myself the chance to take a little bit more time for me, to go to a concert if I wanted to. Instead of having that mindset of I never get to do things for me, I started to allow that idea, of course I can. And it's maybe going to be on a smaller scale right now because of my outside responsibilities, but I can do it and I can let it be easy. And it evolved very naturally, very easily. It was quite a surprise that I have had this life. And the surprise was that it happened so easily. And 5 years ago, me might not have even considered the possibility. It's almost 10 years ago, me now would have just laughed if you'd said, are you going to be a traveler? Are you going to do this or that? Never in your wildest dreams. And yet it did evolve naturally. I did not try to figure it out. I did not make it happen. I allowed it to happen. A lot of that is tuning into how do I actually want to feel? How can I feel that now? Because if you think I want to travel, but I can't because of all my responsibilities, you can understand why do you want to travel? What about that feels appealing to you? Is it you're imagining downtime from work, trying different foods, accessing different cultures, learning to salsa dance? What is it that's lighting you up about that? Go do that right now because you can carve time in your life right now to start having those experiences. Here's where a lot of people get hung up. If I do, that means I won't get to travel. Here's where I like to add a little new information possibly. If you do that, you're going to feel happier. You're going to feel lighter. You're going to feel less stressed out. So no matter what, you're happier. And this happier version of you is going to start prioritizing, allowing a little bit more time off, or maybe delegating a few more tasks because you like the idea of leaving the office at 4:30 on Friday instead of staying till 7. And eventually, it might be quick, but it might not be. You will travel because you're creating the mindset right now of someone who prioritizes himself and what feels better.
You've made part of your journey is you had a background in IT, which is very left and right, switch on, switch off. And now the coaching is all considered woo. Yet you believe this IT world help you with coaching. Tell me that story.
Well, one little caveat is I was a corporate trainer at an IT company, a couple different ones over the years. And so I was certainly immersed in the world. They were both small business owners and right in there with watching the growth and the build of the pressure. Anyone who knows IT knows that the work is never done. It was fascinating to me to see how there was so little balance. The techs were working through all their breaks, trying to get all the service tickets done. The management were trying to put out fires, you bring in a new business, making sure everyone's happy. If you work at IT, you can't control things because there's so much going on. So it's always in your face that you're out of control. In my role as a corporate trainer, had many different duties, but one of them was to help with that internal education. And so I would run lunch webinars and help plan the corporate retreat to give everyone tools to understand it is okay to stand up. It is okay to go for a walk. It is okay to take a few breaths to change focus. Like most of the techs, their downtime was to sit and scroll on their phone while sitting at their desk, waiting for something to update on the client side. That's not a break. The burnout there is so high. It's a great reminder of taking some time to create balance. It's going to keep everybody more productive and the company more profitable. Because when you're burning everybody out, they're quitting, and now you're going through that rehiring process. And I'm sure, is there anything more expensive or a waste of time than having to do an unnecessary hiring process when it could have been a sustainable employee who knows they're burning out? And that's just not on the lower levels, that's all the way up. And so I do think that having access to that world very specifically has given me a great perspective to understand it can be small shifts, but it needs to have priority.
Would one mindset be, because things will happen. The sun will rise, the sun sets. And in the IT world, for example, stuff happens. It won't be as predictable as the sun rising and setting. With the mindset shift, there's a fire to put out and just say it's not a fire, it's an event. Start reframing that whole perspective around the events that you consider adverse. And if you're an adrenaline junkie, you need more. And, that's your spice per se. Is that what you redefine from the mindset perspective? Not only it's pushing you back or it's out of your control as opposed to here's another event. Is that where you're working on? Is that the first major stumbling block you run into with most of your clients?
That hasn't been my experience with the people I've worked with. Most people in front of me are feeling pressure from all walks of their life. So it's not so much just one having to always be reacting at work, but it's that constant pressure to perform and to give as opposed to receive or prioritize himself. So with regard to what you spoke about, I think it is important. The more that we can reframe, almost just take out a bit of that emotional element of just understanding this is, as you said, this is just an event. This is something happening, and I'm choosing a reaction to it. And that really does go across work or home because we can understand and have an awareness of what reaction am I choosing? What emotions am I choosing to feel about this? And having that awareness, we create a space and time with a pause and understand, is this what serves me or the situation best? Or can I choose something differently? This is where the tools help, not having it be a one and done habit change. This is something to practice. Just as we want emergency personnel to be calm, cool, and collected when they show up on an emergency scene, as opposed to us, it's a learned skill and it can be learned. For us to understand, we're bringing our reaction and emotion to the situation. We can choose something different. And when we allow ourselves to choose, maybe it is calm, maybe it is just a little bit more understanding of the bigger scope. Because a lot of times we're so focused on one particular thing that we don't give ourselves that chance to step back and see a big picture. And sometimes it is just those 3 breaths that will give you enough time to do that. Let's step out, and now we can bring in maybe new people, new resources, new tools, even just to allow a reduction of the pressure of time. We put a lot of pressure on ourselves that everything has to be done immediately. That email comes in, you've got to answer immediately. The phone rings, you've got to answer it right now. Even just offering yourself that chance of, do I need to answer that right now? It creates just that little bit of space because we're so often shifting our focus these days that it keeps us in that fight or flight. And I think all of that builds towards what you were speaking about, where we are feeling as if everything is a fire that needs to be put out. And usually it isn't.
Are excited about how people build rather than rebuild and not burn the house down. And you've suggested that their natural temperament is to want to burn the house down. No one wants to feel like a wimp or a victim. How do you help them reprioritize and evaluate to help while they're still in that job or that marriage or that whatever the blank is?
I think the place to start is to understand what they think they have and what they think they're missing. And that's our starting block, because from there, we can start to ask those questions and allow some different perspectives to come through. We like to think we're right. And we like to think that what we think is true, that it's a fact. I have many examples of just with one simple question, I can have the guy think, I guess I might not be right. And it's not about being wrong. It's about, I hadn't thought about it that way. I hadn't looked at it from that way. I hadn't really considered that was also happening, which makes everything that I'm basing my decisions on actually not accurate. And that perspective shift can often be a game changer. It's like unlocking doors that you didn't even know were there. And so it doesn't have to be a straight path of how do I get from this place that is terrible? How am I supposed to feel better without losing it all? To understanding there are a million ways. We just have to pick one at a time and allow it to feel a bit better. Asking for help can be the biggest shift because they're scared sometimes of what it might be. What if I choose to feel better and it means that everything goes away? They don't want to feel like the bad guy and they don't want to start over and they don't want the judgment from everyone else or even for themselves, but they just don't know where to start. And so that's what coaching can do. It gives you a place to start and one next best step at a time.
Is there a geography you tend to spend more time in than others, being the nomad? And also, how do we reach you?
I am Canadian, very proud Canadian. I do work with people all over the world. I have clients in UK, South Africa, a lot of wonderful Americans as well. So it's fun to know that I can work with anybody, no matter where I am. And people can reach me through my website. I am happy to book a free half-hour consultation. I'd love to just get on and talk with someone. I'm just a person, and I'd love to find out who they are in a very open, non-judgmental space, because that's something our guys don't always feel they have. People can reach me at SheilaWilliamsCoaching.com. And my email address is Sheila@SheilaWilliamsCoaching.com.
I want to say thank you to Sheila Williams, my co-host Wayne Pratt, and you, the Knack for Business listeners. So, you're at that point in time in your career that you're going, what the heck? Have a chat with Sheila. Even if you don't have to hit the brick wall to have that chat. If you're just trying to figure out, not going 100%, reach out to Sheila. She'll have a conversation. If she can help you, she'll tell you.
To reach the podcast hosts, email them at info@creativeinsight.com or by the website creativeinsight.com, spelled KREAVINGHT.com. To reach Wayne at his email, wayne@motive8u.ca, that is MOTIVE, the numeral 8 and the letter U.ca, or his website, motive8u.ca. If you would like to be a guest on this podcast and share your knowledge, let us know. We would also appreciate your feedback on the content or format. Check the show notes for more details. For these podcasts, we like to acknowledge the support and thanks to the following people. Carl Richards from Podcast Solutions Made Simple, a renowned podcast expert. Fred Crouch, who is the Property Wizard podcaster, where Bernie is a co-host. Jovan Strika from At Hive, a co-working space that is more than just a space. Then Melanie Weber, Bernie's invaluable business partner, and Wayne Pratt from Motive 8U Inc., who serves as both a coach and co-host of these podcasts. Disclaimer: please note that the Knack for Business podcast episodes are meant solely for educational and general informational purposes. The information and opinions contained within are not intended to be professional advice on any subject matter. The thoughts, views, and opinions expressed by the participants are their own personal beliefs and do not represent the views of the podcast hosts or any affiliated organizations. It is important to note that this podcast is not a replacement for consulting with certified experts in your area who possess knowledge of your unique situation. The hosts of the podcast, along with any participants or affiliated groups, do not take responsibility for any actions taken or not taken based on the information presented in this episode. It is highly recommended that individuals seek guidance from their own personal advisors in fields such as accounting, law, or other pertinent areas prior to undertaking any actions or making decisions that may impact their financial, legal, or other aspects of life.